Hello hero, it's Lucy Lannon. It's good to see you. You've seen the title, so at this stage you know more about today's reading than I do, since I speak to you from the recent alternate past. This is a general, timeless one, ideally designed for quite a large audience, so we won't get as specific as we would in a private booking, link down below. If most of what I'm saying feels like an answer to a question you've been living, take those tidbits with you and let a fellow traveller excavate the rest. If it's not your reading, there are playlists on my channel hub to randomise finding something else. Whilst it's true that a broken clock is right twice a day, I'm not sure that same clock is right 10 times within the hour. So trust yourself, above all, to know what's useful for you and what makes you feel more empowered for hearing it, no matter what your beliefs. While we're on beliefs, on this channel gendered terms are just a specificity of language to describe energetic tendencies and signatures, solar or lunar inclination in accordance with a hermetic law of polarity, and not any kind of socialisation to buy into wholesale or conflate with the identity or orientation of anyone described. Romantic and spiritual labels used are plucked from lengthy precedent predating any unfortunate trending controversies or engineered cyclical backlash. My dude, around these parts, we don't relinquish the complexity of our full histories. We trust ourselves cognitively to adapt what we consume and see what's healthy and long-term accurate. I'm legally obliged to say this is entertainment in quote marks and that I'm an occultist not qualified in unrelated disciplines to advise on physical and mental health, finances, legalities. You get the picture, you're in charge of you. All my readings are protected and warded by frankly magnificent beneficial forces, though I don't share my custom prep rituals on camera any more than I give out my address. I hope the reasoning behind that is obvious, but you can trust there are zero parasitic or adversarial influences permitted within 100 unseen paces of any signal we patch from the noise here today. So sit back, relax into the shape of your most luminous possible future self, cozy up to imaginal allies, and take in whatever it is you need to hear. If you do like it, this small channel with a big mission very much appreciates subscriptions, thoughtful comments, or donations in order to spread the word and keep the lights on. Now, let's tune that dial. Okay gang, a few things to know before we begin. Firstly, I apologise for any noise of the washer that you may hear rumbling away in the background, but something that came through before the beginning of the reading was that actually that's the perfect time to do the washing because you are having some kind of cyclical thing, an idea going round and round and round, so that is confirmation for some of you. Also, for one reason or another that I'm not going to get into, you may have been working with the Norse pantheon, with whom I'm not the most familiar, but there is a nod particularly to Odin that happened at the beginning of this read. So if that resonates, take it. If it doesn't, that's fine. It will be for somebody else. But something about my sort of choosing candles and things beforehand, alongside what that reminded me of and what objects were around, was like, oh, Odin wants to join in with this. And again, I don't really work with Odin, so that might be you, okay? On the alternative side, if you are more kind of in goddessy energy at the moment, I want to say, or even if you just don't believe in anything but you want to tap into a particular kind of mood, the jade that I held up at the beginning is your crystal for the day. And jade to me speaks of kind of Marian tales or green Tara kind of energy, very sort of Kuan Yin, giving peaceful relaxation vibes. And with the mention of Odin, I think that whoever or whatever you're working with, what you're seeking at the moment is a kind of, I don't want to say a relaxing protector because Odin's not relaxing, but there's a sensation even before we begin that is echoed also with emerald, because that's a Venusian colour, that there needs to be a chill out time for you. There's too much going round in circles like that washing, right? And in order to relax, some of you may feel that you need a protector or a fatherly figure or the strength of that kind of Odin energy. And maybe that's why it came through. Maybe it's not to do with the pantheon. Maybe it's more a father figure being necessary at this time in a sort of inner sense. I hope that makes any sense to you. Please confirm down below in the comments if I'm getting it right, because it helps the channel and it helps me to know that I'm on the right track. But yeah, that's, even before we dive into any of this, that's what's happening. You will also notice that my DIY colour deck is not present today, and instead I'm using the secret language of colour cards, which again, told to do, not sure why, but we did get that emerald, and in my deck that would have been described differently in terms of the colour properties. So maybe it's to get that Venusian nod to the sort of very feminine, very peaceful energies going on. When I say feminine, again, refer to the intro, but it doesn't mean that it has to be female or even sort of femme gendered. It's just that kind of passive or even seductive drawing in rather than pushing out vibe. And with a Venusian thing, this can be to do with love or money, so we'll get further into that. But there's like it's almost like immediately I want to say just chill, right? I should also have put this at the beginning, but sort of vague trigger warning for anybody who may or may not be mildly or majorly arachnophobic. Someone has taken up residence in my horn, which is a sentence I never thought I'd say, but one of our more generously legged friends is present today and may pop out, and I don't know whether he will catch the light if he does, but just know, you know, if you do need a trigger warning on that, it may happen. I highly doubt it, but I also felt like it should be said. Now, something to do with spiders and that idea of needing protection is a signifier for me personally, and I'm also touching this ring, so this may be to do with your romantic life, that, how do I want to put this? Let me get on the ground, let's ground a bit, screw the chair, let's get down here. I think that in a connection that is very dear to you, there is interference, this is before any of the cards, that is sneaky in some way or not what it seems to be. Some would call it trickster energy. I feel like that's unfair on tricksters because we're talking very Seven of Swords vibes. We're talking someone being deliberately misleading with their words, or in a milder sense, a bit facetious, right? We'll get more into what that might be, hopefully, fingers crossed. But these are all the kind of initial impressions, even before we get to what you actually got. And the first thing to say about what you've got is that we have 5 reversals. And the number 5 has been big today, so I do feel that's a channeled for you. Because 5 is taking the order of a thought and adding an element of conflict. Sometimes it can be the entering of chaos into a situation, or the entering of an extra element that complicates things as they were, when things as they were quite stable and steady. I know this is all very vague. We will get more specific, but these are the sort of initial channels before I did anything, and I always feel that if I'm getting those, I should say it. Also, I'm like touching my own hand and getting more as I'm doing it. I'm really sorry, guys. We will get to the cards. I'm doubling up on my May the Force Be With You rings. These have significance to, you know, a counterpart energy having one and me having the other, or a counterpart energy being signified by one and me having the other. They're highly protected, so don't fire anything at them. But that is, if I'm wearing both, this is talking about that stability being specifically with another person. And again, if you're very romantically happy and there's nothing going on there, it may be that some kind of collaboration or some conversation that would have been had in a very stable way is being infiltrated by this sneaky Seven of Swords energy that the spider signifies for me personally, right? Or indeed, it could be confirmation that you're watching one of the many spider movies that seem to have had a resurgence in horror as of late on Shudder or in the cinemas or whatever. Good for you, boo. You're in the right spot. Right, let's get in, shall we? DIY communication deck, I have a surprise for you and you're going to love it, right? So let's bear that in mind. Then I want to scoot over to the engineer in the light, which says ability to give creative energy a practical expression, talent for designing resolutions to common dilemmas. I think that maybe there was some kind of conflict between you and another person, and again, it doesn't have to be romantic, we'll go in. But this spider energy is the communication of a third party, which you may or may not know about. This could be someone in someone else's ear, or it could be directly in the conversation. Again, we'll dig in, but my feeling is that there was going to be an easy resolution to this. There was going to be a 4, and then it flips to being this 5 energy that we've got, right? Sorry, Althea. And with I have a surprise for you and you're going to love it, it may even be that this other person that we're speaking about had something in store for you, which they now either can't do or is made a little bit more complex by the presence of this shifty bugger, is what I want to call them. We're going to go, I don't normally go playing cards straight away, but I've got the Bob Ross deck today, which I'm very pleased to see has been embraced by all the channels as of late, so that's a good one. I have enjoyed working with Bob all these years, but so it's a 4 in reverse, which is crucial for what we were saying there about stability becoming instability. And it's in swords, which is very like rumination, again, turning things over in the mind, the washer going round and round, or the tumble dryer or whatever. What Bob would have said is no pressure, just relax and watch it happen. Now, what did we say in the channel about the inability to relax at the moment? The inability to step back into this passive Marian or Green Tara energy and just receive or just watch things flow. And the need for that odinic, is that a word? Protection kind of energy to come in, because there is something that's almost out of your hands with these waves, and with it being a 4 of swords, there is a sense of overwhelm here. There is a sense of emotional washing over, and as I say that, I'm getting overwhelmed by the incense smoke, which should be moving in the other direction, guys. Thank you kindly. I may move you if that continues, but again, incense, right? Air. This is an oversaturation of things to do with the mind, with the brain, the engineer. How can I engineer this to work in the correct direction? Not right, correct, right? It's a slight nuance of language, but it means the world sometimes. So there is a micromanaging energy to this, and I think it may be coming from you. No shade, just because we do have all of this protective, relaxing, Venusian opposite energy to it going on at the same time. And if there's this bashing up against stuff in a reading, very often it's that one is you and the other is the energy that perhaps needs to be absorbed. I keep knocking the plant, right? And she's a very calming presence. If you watch the channel regularly, you'll know Althea takes part in almost every reading for the last year or so, even though she was an entirely accidental being, weren't you? Sorry. So it's this, again, it's like I'm bashing through, I'm trying to get to the message, trying to get the air, the communication, the words out. And in doing that, I'm being violent to a non-violent being. Not in a literal sense, guys. I don't think you're bashing anybody, but it's this kind of charging in with all GUNs blazing or with swords drawn in order to solve a problem in a very meticulous, thought out fashion prior, but actually realizing that that approach is possibly not going to be the best resolution. And if you are dealing with somebody else involved in this, with this spider thing that's very clever with their words, that could be to do with that. It's like you can't use the tools of the enemy, no one's your enemy, but you know, you can't use it against them in this case. The other thing with this spider is that he's come to residence in a horn. I'm going to move this incense. 2 seconds. I'm sorry, I love you. Be over here and be happy. Yes, so the spider is taking up residence in the horn. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, inverted commas, right? Which is, the horn is the extension of the head, of the mind. Quite often in sort of fairy imagery, well, I say fairy, I shouldn't even say it in a full word if we're talking about the real thing, it's the good folk, but I'm thinking of like Brian Froud kind of a world, and horns tend to signify something that's an emanation of the mind into the outer universe, right? The thought transforming into the spiral and kind of going off into its own thing. The materializing of the thought, right? This spider, if it represents a sneaky or shifty element, has taken up residence within that process, within the spiral of the horn, within the thoughts someone is sending out into the world. Now, if that's you, And this spider is a persuasive person, and they've kind of just used their language very cleverly to plant something in your mind, kind of NLP style, so that you'll do a certain thing or behave a certain way. This may be an interruption of the intellectual energy that you've been in to say only relaxation, only relative passivity, only receiving mode is going to interrupt the programming that they've put into your software in that sense. And if that isn't you, and if you know that this sneaky individual or thing is kind of infiltrating with the person you would like to be in a better communication with, that perhaps has a gift for you, or vice versa, then I think that this is to say they have implanted into this person's thought process. And the only way to counter that is not thoughts, but vibes. You feel me? Let's actually step into the tarot, shall we then? So more of a description of the situation with these three up here, and then we'll get into solutions and stuff like that. We've got a Page of Pentacles reversed, a Six of Cups in the upright, and a Ten of Wands in the upright. Okay, so there is a kind of... hold up a moment. Oh, so this is literally about a gift for many of you. Okay. Oh, all right. So I do feel that this person that you would like to be in better communication with or solving a problem with in some way actually planned to give you something in the physical, or at least if it wasn't a physical object, it was like a planned experience, a trip, something in the way of like a formal offer. Again, this doesn't have to be a love reading, but I'm reading for a large audience here, so it has to be a relatively general interpretation, right? And in kind of planning for that and being very meticulous about it, I'm seeing a kind of needle here of like getting exact, right? Again, more swordsy energy. Pinpointing specifically what you would like is what I want to say with that. They sort of worked themselves into a bit of a tizzy, right? They went back into a childlike mode in the joy of the idea of gift giving. And then felt suddenly very overwhelmed by this, and suddenly very like, oh, actually, I can't do that. That's a bit much. What is unseen in this process is that this spidery energy, sorry, I'm not going to actually tap you, bro, may have been the reason why it's suddenly a bit much. If you identify with like, maybe somebody was in their ear. Basically what I'm getting here, to sum up everything so far, is that you can't relax. There's stuff going round and round in your head. You need to relax. There's another person that you want to be in good communication with who was thinking of getting you something or pushing something forward or offering something in a very material way. And they were giddy, right? And running around like a kid about it and very like exact with it and like, yes, I know this person is going to love this. And then somewhere along the lines, a little spider crawled into their thought process spiral, right? And sent them spiraling and sent them into a mode where they were like, oh shit, you're right. This is a dumb idea. This person won't like this, or it's too much, or it's too little, or I need to have a conversation with them before I offer them this thing. Or maybe it's just that it won't be received at all, or maybe it's too expensive, or any number of things that a person with vested interest can say to somebody to go, are you sure? And what I get from that is that for it to be so easy to divert this person off track and to be sort of like, are you sure? Do you really wanna? Is that they were already in a position where they were a little bit unstable. They were offering you the 4. They weren't yet at the 4 for this 5 to come in, if that makes any kind of sense, right? They were, think of a 3-legged stool and then a 4-legged stool. And it's kind of this like, one can still be a bit wobbly, depends how it was made. And then one is very like steady. And I think that this, almost like this thing that was going to be sent your way, whether it's a job offer, a vacation, a present, right? A gift, you know, like whatever it was going to be the 4th leg to this stool of like, no, we're okay. I don't want to say it's a peace offering because this isn't giving reconciliation energy, but it was perhaps a supplement to a conversation that already needed to happen. But it's almost like this infiltrating energy, you know, person or thing, had the idea that without the gift happening, whatever this Page of Pentacles represents, the conversation before the gift may not happen, or the conversation around it, or the thing to get the other legs to the stool wouldn't happen either. I think that this person that was sort of speaking about their decision process, right, whoever it is, and again, this can be a professional situation as well, so take what you need, but it's like they were maybe 70% sure that this was exactly the right thing, as the cherry on top of something they'd already rehearsed in their head. And then something came in with this 30% and made it more like a 50. And that sort of wiped away, like, the point wasn't the gift, right? The point was the conversation that's happening with that. And yet the whole thing's almost become null and void. It's like being swept off the table, off the board, right? Because of this other thing, and we'll get into what that is with these here. What I want to say is that if this is professional, this feels like maybe an offer of a job or a promotion being extended, potentially. But what's important about that conversation isn't even that your income or your opportunity will go up. It's more that, alongside that, this person wanted to say, and by the way, would you join me on a project? Or, and by the way, I've noticed this about your performance and we kind of need that for this specific team or this specific job, right? It was almost like calling you into the office to talk about that thing may have been a chance to discuss other elements that there was no way to like get in any other way. So it was like, here, have this. We're really pleased with how you're doing. Enjoy however many grand more. But it's also like, and by the way, while I've got you here, right? And the while I've got you here is the true threat to this spider, or to this, sorry, to what the spider signifies is more what I should say. If you are a literal engineer, this may be directly related to work. Please hit me up down below with a thumbs up to let me know so that I got it, right? And if you did come for a love reading or a kind of communication or relationship reading or anything like that, similar rules apply, right? They were going to come to you with something, but the something is almost less important than, you know, while I've got you here on our own because I booked a vacation, or while I've got you here unwrapping your gift or whatever, let's talk about that thing that we haven't spoken about. Let's address the elephant in the room, or indeed, let's collaborate on this thing, or talk about how to handle this problem. Communication being difficult, obviously, because I'm fumbling over my words and speeding up, right? So this is, again, this person was already not uneasy, but less than stable in their decision making around this. And it only took a slight tip of this other influence to suddenly, you know, the stool's on the floor, never mind, hasn't got a fourth leg to it. So let's get into like what that interrupting energy was. We've got a Fool in reverse and a Knight of Pentacles in reverse. So with the Fool in reverse, what I'm getting is immediately part of how this idea was implanted Inception style is like, it seems like a risky thing though, doesn't it? But good luck to you. You know, in that sort of passive aggressive, very covert narcissist-y, not narcissistic, I'm not diagnosing, but that sort of pattern of like, that's a fabulous idea, darling, but also seems a bit dangerous to me. Anyway, let that percolate. I'll see you tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like, it's like this whole process has been very subtle. If you were to call this like spider person out, I think it would be really difficult to like, for this person, who again is quite childlike, quite innocent in this Six of Cups energy, quite buzzing about what it is that they wanted to do, I think it would actually be very difficult for them to articulate why it is that the other person is the seed of their doubt, because there was nothing they directly said that wasn't just a flippant passing comment, right? That wasn't just a part of a sentence of judgment and then we move on. That is this person or energy covering their tracks. Insinuation is their tactic, right? And I don't like doing readings like this where I accuse people of things, but when it's coming through, it's coming through. I see it going on. And I need to kind of tell you that that's what it was, because it's important that you know that this person isn't innocent with this 6, and also what their intentions were for some reason. Because it's like almost then, if you're in this relaxing, protected state that we spoke about earlier, maybe we can get back on track to this, or to the conversation that was going to accompany the thing. So anyway, getting back to this, I'm going to call them the insinuator. There was this implication of, oh, that sounds amazing, and it's just what you've wanted. Sounds a bit risky though, bye. And then doubt, right? In capital letters. With the Knight of Pentacles in reverse, if you want, I suspect you know who this insinuator is, to be honest. But if you are looking for kind of who they were, person-wise or energy-wise, there's an element here of being bad with money, or not being as well off as the person making this decision, or indeed being so sort of fearful about money in an open way that that is used as a tool of financial abuse or control. So think, for example, the overbearing helicopter parent who says, you do exactly what you need to with your money because it's your money, my darling. But then they also say, but if it were me, I think it's a bit of a risky investment. You know what I mean? It's that, oh, and by the way, we could use that money for your Uncle Ted's do when we do this thing. You know, it's that like vested interest is present. Do not, what's the word? Do not mistake this person for someone who has no stake in the game. And if it is a money trail that we're following, then it's easy to understand what their stake is, right? If this is something to do with a promotion and this isn't a professional person, this is like a family member or somebody else sort of close to you in that sense, or close to this person, I suspect that this is the energy. The reason I said helicopter parent is this is the energy of someone who might hold somebody else back from maturing in order that they continue to benefit. So it seems like they're not benefiting on paper, because it's like, why would you want your son or daughter or spouse or whatever to not receive a promotion? How would that work? That's a ridiculous thing to accuse anybody of, right? But then actually when you sort of go deeper, it's like, because if they received that promotion or that money, they wouldn't need me, or they wouldn't need to keep returning to a particular place and involving with a particular set of people in a certain way, or they wouldn't need to continue within a certain field. So they could maybe pursue something that's a little bit tailored to them, right? And I don't know when this is going up, but like around the time that it is, there is another reading with the Twin Peaks deck that I'm going to put up that's about sort of making a liberating career choice, and that may be tying in with all of that. If it's more of a relationship situation, then this could be like a third party or jealous friend or something like that. But again, it's this energy of, I want to keep you in a regressed mode, so I'm going to insinuate that it's far too risky for you to do this thing. And also this person may either need this person's money or gifts, or may need them to put their investment in them in a literal sense. Or they may just be someone who's a bit irresponsible themselves. And that's kind of what they're using. It's like, oh, you know I'm really bad with money and I know I'm in a ton of debt, but you know why? It was because I kept doing things like this for other people. It's really, I hate, like, I'm impersonating it, and you can hear the resentment in my voice, right? Because I've had this, and it's such an annoying energy, and it's so subtle that you could have this person, the insinuator, be in a room full of other people and they would still be financially or romantically or professionally gaslighting a person in broad daylight. You know what I mean? Because it's so difficult to track back and be like, but you said this. It's like, oh, well, you know, it may have been in my comments, but I'm only looking out for you. And I also said this, this, and this. And so was here, and so. You know what I mean? It's, I want to kind of, I'm a pacifist person, my dude, but I want to do damage to this person who's like holding someone else back here. It's because it's giving what's she called? It's giving Mother Gothel from Tangled, when she's sort of very affectionate with Rapunzel and like touching her face and making her hazelnut soup and all of this sort of stuff. But at the same time, she's gradually implanting the belief that if she were ever to leave her prison, she would be eaten alive, you know, and it's like, oh, you're just too chubby and too immature and too bad with money and too risky for genuine life experience. So stay here with mummy or daddy or partner or friend or whoever this is, right? Colleague, etc. Because they know best. And that's why it's getting at me, right? But that is spider energy for me, right? It's when somebody specific in my life that embodies that is about to do their thing. I get lots of spiders in my house and they make friends, right? So, but this one was for you, right? This is anything in the zone of this table is a message for you guys and not for me. So let's move forward. I hope that's cleared up who this person is, but we may get further signifiers when I kind of read the more oracular version of this blood tarot. Going to kind of actions and outcome. I want to say action first. The Tower in reverse is like a resistance to something that may be an inevitable shift or may cause a major crisis, but a necessary crisis. This is telling me that this person who is risking coming forward with whatever needs to take the risk. It is a necessary thing for their development, right? And you may say, well, why is that in my reading? Because I can't do anything about this intervening party in order to put a person back on track to offer me something. I can't just be like, hey, you know that gift you were going to give me that I know about from a tarot reading? Could you? And I understand that you're in that position, but the reason you're receiving that message about the other person is the second meaning of this, which is that because this process is so important, because they need to offer this for themselves, right? And notice I'm making a T, so they've come to a crossroad again with the Twin Peaks reading. It's like there is no way forward for them other than this thing. So they can choose to approach you with the conversation that was going to happen, and things will go pretty well. I think it will be very well received. I think you guys can collaborate, go forward, find solutions, calm your minds, bodies and souls, maybe, you know, it's this place of stability that we spoke about. But they can also choose to resist this perceived tower, this apparent imminent crisis that the other person has convinced them is going to happen when they move forward. And in doing so, because it's still a tower reversed and because the tower is inevitable for one's development, it's going to happen anyway, right? So if they don't come forward with what they were going to give, they will run into you, or they will have you in their office to have a chat for some other reason and be able to have this positive conversation that they were intending to have. Or dare I say, this fairly insidious person will slip up in some way or try to implant another idea, and they'll kind of realize, and you know, maybe at the point that it's too late to give this, but they will still be like, this person was interfering, I'm going to still have that chat. Maybe even for a small number of you, you are this person who is about to make some kind of offer, and this is you seeing this reading and going, I know exactly who that energy is in my life, and I realise now what they said, and I realise that my brain has taken that to affirm any instability that I felt about the situation, but I'm hearing it and I'm not going to let it stop me, right? Because it's the risk taken is a necessary risk. But there's some way moving forward that the tower's gonna fall whatever, right? This is the Odin energy coming in the reassuring fatherly mode and saying, whoever's watching this, you are protected. I have your back. I'm bigger than everybody else. I'm harder than everybody else. I'm at once very giving and sacrificial and sweet, but also you wouldn't want to fucking mess with Odin, right? So there's this thing of, okay, we're telling you this is all happening, but do you think, my dude, that you are not protected? Are you under the illusion, my sweet, sweet audience, that there is not something here communicating all of this correctly to you if you've come this far, that also has the ability to have your back, right? Because if I've gotten this right, and I think I have, then that also means that I'm in touch with Spirit, and Spirit is saying, why would we communicate the problem and not also offer the solution? Why would we be stood with you enough to be aware of this whole dynamic, but not also have it taken care of on your behalf, right? So if you're the person giving, continue to give. Have no fear because of this snippety little person over here, and indeed be more conscious of their vested interest in this situation and how it is that they may benefit psychologically, financially, romantically, whatever, in holding you back. And if you're not the giving person, if you're the person who would very much like to receive actually, and very much like to have this communication, then you may not get an offer in as straightforwardly material a way as you were going to get, but you are going to have a chance to talk about this, whether it's accidental, right, in a sort of synchronicity meeting, or whether it's in a much more thought out way where eventually this person kind of gets out of their own head and says, you know what, whether or not we're going on holiday in Bali, we need to have this conversation. Or whether or not I'm being promoted, or I'm promoting somebody, I need to have a chat with them about this particular project, you know? Again, alter as you see fit. And then the Ace of Wands in reverse as an outcome. I think this... I'm trying to put this delicately. What I'm hearing being yelled by my cackling ancestors in my head, who take great delight in being very rude because they know that I will listen, and perhaps in their time these things were not as okay to say. But the word I'm hearing shouted and laughed at is impotence, right? And this is from my one particular female ancestor who's very funny. She's going to overbalance and topple all her skirts laughing that hard, but it's this thing of like, impotence is this person, is this infiltrating party, whether they are somebody that would identify with having that kind of gear, right? Whether they are in possession of a wand themselves or not. My feeling is that getting in between people gets this person's dig hard, right? And and in this case, you are protected enough, the impotence is a thing, right? It's going to go limp. This whole effort, although it may work on anybody else at any other time, and indeed may have worked on you up to now, or this person up to now, it's all going to be for naught in the end. And I think the temporary energy that we're in, because now the washer's speeding up, I don't know whether you can hear that, but it's like this temporary thought circling round and round. It's going to kind of come to a peak, it's going whizzing round, it's like too complicated to follow, and then all of a sudden it goes still, right? And you get into a gentle spin, and then beep beep and it's done. So it's kind of, even if this person is steam coming out of their ears level panicky, I feel like they're about to enter into a period of calm, signified by this emerald card, which rebalances things, because in the end, greens are about the rebalancing of a system. You may literally work in software for some of you. You may be a software engineer, because there is all of this green and this kind of meticulousness, and it's all very technical and precise, right? Just for some, but again, confirm if that's you. I love to hear it. So yes, impotence. Thank you for that, dear. But also with this Ace of Wands, there may be like a restriction in, what do I want to say? I think whether this is like, it's on your mind a lot as well, because you were expecting this, or indeed are financially reliant upon it for some of you, if it is a promotion, or whether it's more that like they're really worried about it and they're sort of distracted. Now I'm hearing the song Distracted from the film The Woman, which isn't for everyone, but wait. it's this thing of like somebody involved in here that was very distracted by the situation. Excuse me, hiccups, confirmation. That will continue for a bit, right? Even if you're seeing this and this is all about you and your decisions, I feel like it'll still be on your mind and you'll still be like, but what if I'd have just thought differently and done this, and maybe I could have toppled the tower sooner, or maybe I could have received the thing I was waiting for, or whatever. It's still going to like get at you a bit, because also this is a very niggly reading. It's very kind of under the skin. It's very, secretly in the horn. Which you can take as literally as you need to, depending on your situation. But I think that this tension is going to temporarily inhibit creativity on your side, on their side, on both sides. Just until y'all can relax. Just until the jade comes through and you settle into, I've received this reading and actually it's been taken care of, and I need to realise that the All-Father is looking after me and I'm probably okay. And perhaps the purpose of seeing all this was to recognise that we have a mutiny on board, or we have we have a snake in the grass, that kind of thing. And if you want to flip it, then it's like, relax into this. Your instincts were correct, yeah. If you were going to offer a certain thing or make a certain plan or go big and gestural with something, or perhaps apply for a certain thing that you were a little bit uneven about, this is saying to me, go for it. But it's also saying that there might be a temporary anxiety. There might be so much kind of swordsy stuff that it starts to affect more onesie stuff. So much going on in the head that it affects how much you can tap in, how much you can manifest, how much you can be just creative and relaxed and sort of in a spiritual easy mode, or indeed fired up about things. This may have, as my darling best friend would say, this may have pissed on your bonfire. And that is a temporary state. It is an outcome card, but it's only the immediate future of this, because this major being in the centre here, this tower, tells me that the overarching kind of result is that this is going to happen either way. It's just that maybe you needed to hit the snag first to know who is not going to support this, or not going to support you, or who's back talking at the office, or who you might need to have a conversation with in a familial sense, or indeed if they're truly covert, in a sort of diagnosed way that you would already know about, who to avoid entirely whenever discussing things that normally fill you with enthusiasm, with hope, right? Because there is a deliberate attempt here to diminish somebody's optimism about a situation. And I think that's why you're here, right? Because it's almost like the outcome is set. How the outcome comes about will change wildly depending on whether this person up here can get themselves together and feel confident and do the thing. They may even tell you years down the line that they had the idea to then, and you're like, why did you not do that? Well, this is your why, right? this is why. But it's not a pointless why. It's a why of like, this person was actually quite nervous about this, so it was easy for somebody else to get in their head, and that's something I need to be professionally aware of, or romantically aware of, or familially aware of. Take it, do what you need to do. Because I picked from this deck and not my colour deck, it did differ slightly from what I would normally say with this colour. That's not a bad thing, because it's what you needed. But I'm also pulled to use the guidebook from that deck to just talk a little bit more about what we see here. So bear with me while I find the correct page. And we will get into another spicier form of divination, as always. But I'm just going to go through this with you. So emerald helps with overcoming fears, releasing frustration, and creating calm. Use the colour emerald to bring harmony to challenging situations. Again, dissolving aggression, it says, and we were talking about maybe having a chat that does that, or that mends something which was a little bit chipped, and to mend a broken heart. So again, if this is a love reading, you know why, you know where we're at with this, right? Emerald also increases self-esteem, attracts abundance, and replenishes your energy. Calm your mind, body, and soul with emerald rays. And it changed to emerald as I read that. I don't know whether you noticed. And then with the calm thing, the meditation for each colour, it says, go into a garden and take deep breaths of fresh air as you focus on the greenery all around you, or indeed on the screen. I'm going to just bring these guys in a little further so that you can do that. There we go. Take deep breaths of fresh air as you focus on the greenery. Place your hands on the ground or the grass to feel the healing, calming energy it contains. Imagine what it would be like to be a blade of grass growing without resistance. Breathe in the emerald rays, allowing peace and calm to flow through you. Without resistance. This is such confirmation you are protected. And then say aloud, divine love, I'm waiting, divine love, I rejoice in the wonder of nature. Every time I focus on the greenery around me, I feel calm, perfect balance, and harmony. Is that not exactly the vibe that we were getting to begin with, right? Ooh, so everything's okay. And actually, I'm seeing a hair on Althea here that was glowing green in the light. Maybe a hair from way back when I had bright green hair on the channel and my hair used to glow, which again is a Tangled reference. Doesn't it all loop around in such a fantastic way, my dudes? Okay, so also, the bob thing, no pressure, just relax and watch it happen. Again, right? This is taken care of. There's nothing to worry about, bro. Why are you fretting? It's all easy. Easy, fam. Easy. Right. Today's magnificent spicy divination method, that is something extraneous to tarot that I haven't done before on the channel, is going to be using hair. I'm sorry if that grosses anybody out, but I recently had a very comprehensive haircut. That's one way to say it. And here in my little bowl, I have a ton of purple hair. Purple may be significant to you too, or it may be a colour you were thinking of dyeing your own hair. So we're just going to sprinkle this, and I'm going to read the pattern it falls in and give you any extra information that you need at this time. Never done this before, but I don't see why it wouldn't work. So let's get to it, shall we? If you're a hairdresser, by the way, feel free to do this in your own practice. Okay, I'm going to start with a zodiacal grid and then go into textures, shapes, changes of light, etc. as we get deeper in. Okay, yeah, there is, this is confirmation of the tarot for many of you, but there is some kind of relationship here, if not, that is crucial between your kind of career and goal setting area and your environmental or familial background, particularly parental background or your caregivers growing up. There's something here about the relationship between how you were raised and how it is that you execute on projects now. And that may be as literal as this person we were speaking about earlier is a parent or is a influential authority figure when it relates to how you were raised, or indeed they use something about how you were raised to influence you or to regain control if they feel they lose it. But this is directly affecting your career, right? I'm seeing this as like a 4th, 10th MCIC type thing for you astrologers. So this is like the extent to which you can achieve in life is very much tied up with something, I want to say to do with the father more than the mother, but you know, take it as you need to. And again, if you just had caregivers or a different kind of family, adjust as you see fit. You're all welcome here. It's all great. But it's like, with the shape of this as well, it's like pulling it to this hemisphere of the chart, right, the wheel. And that's sort of giving, holding you back is like how this person gains respect, is what I want to say. Or how somebody gains respect in relation to mother, father, caregiver, etc. If you've got an absent parent, then maybe the other parent is like subconsciously trying to regress you so that you'll stay with them because the other parent is gone. It's only for some of you, but it's a thing that's coming through because this situation reminded me of someone I used to know. And again, that may not be a conscious effort on the part of this person who does that, and we can offer them love and compassion and forgiveness, but it is affecting how you execute on tasks. For some of you, this is literally your executive function, because I'm seeing different colours in the hair that relate to different people I know. And I have an extremely ADHD friend who just got referenced here. So it's like stuff like that. It's as if you have ADHD with some kind of execution of tasks. But what I'm being told, for those of you that resonates, is that it's not necessarily or solely a neurodivergence. It could also be a bit of a sneaky trauma response thing because of something about what you were told you were capable of being or doing in that Mother Gothel type way. If you've gotten this far into the reading and you've never seen Disney's Tangled, I am deadly serious. I don't care what gender you identify as. I don't care how old you are. Go and watch Tangled, because it's such an excellent description of this kind of dynamic in a way that's inoffensive enough that it can be absorbed if this was your situation and it was traumatic. And if it's not that extreme, or you've seen Tangled and you're like, well, it's not full Gothel, but maybe this person wants to infiltrate a bit. There's something to do with whoever it was that was getting into somebody's head here that relates back to your home or your family. So if this is like, say, a competing colleague that we were speaking about, they might know your mom or your dad or your sibling or something. It's more likely to be a parental figure here. Or indeed, if you know that they're a practitioner, real minority I'm speaking to here, but if you are and they are, they might work with the Norse pantheon, because we're getting back to that daddy energy again from the beginning of the reading, right? The Odin stuff. So something there, but I'm being told to leave that bit there and focus on the rest of it. You feel like your friendships are, I don't feel like you think you're unpopular. But what I will say is that on the matter we've been discussing, you feel maybe like there's only one or two people that you can turn to about this that would actually see it as a legitimate thing. And I don't know whether that's because of the sort of insidiousness we've been describing in the language. And like maybe your friend's been like, it seems like it could go either way, or it seems like it's in your head or whatever. Or whether it's in fact that so many people tie back to either this or this in terms of this work home thing, or this achievement home thing, should I say, that it's like you don't, my sense is with you that there are so many people here that have, like, I don't want to call it fingers in pies because it's a nice energy, but many people in your life connect back to other areas of your life, right? And that leaves you with very few people to actually discuss something like this situation with. Because it's almost like, well, some people that you would tell are to do with the gift that was going to be offered or the promotion or whatever it was. And then other people are to do with that person's circle. And then there's some other people that you might tell, but they're to do with this influencing party. And then other ones you might tell, but they'll only tell your ma and she'll worry. You know, it's like, and then it's sort of going down to like, if you do have a lot of friends, some of you do, some of you don't, but it's almost like we can cross them off and them off and them off, and we're left with kind of one strand over here of like, this is the person I can talk to about this. And that may even be why you had to see this today, because it's almost like you might have come for a reading on something else and then seen me, or seen the title or the thumbnail or something, and you were like, oh, I'll just do a quick one with that. Or like I've interrupted you going about your day and you were just scrolling for something to put on in the background and you saw me and like, oh, hey, you know, Double L's uploaded, wicked, I'll have a listen. Thank you if you are a subscriber. If you're not, you know what to do. But there's some kind of interruption here where this is almost like swooping in to break the pattern of your day to say, hey, we see that you can't talk about this, and that's fine. So we're going to talk about it with you now, and we're going to tell you that we're addressing it, and we're going to tell you that you're protected, and we're going to describe the kind of insidiousness of it so that you don't have to communicate that to somebody else without using perhaps words like gaslighting, or without being armed with, yes, I believe this is happening, but I believe it's happening in a very covert way that's difficult to communicate. So I'm not directly accusing anybody of anything, but I feel ways when this person says things like, right? Because I think before you saw this reading, either you were mad about it, but you felt like you couldn't tell someone, or like you felt like you wanted to discuss it, but you maybe didn't have the language for that. I'm suddenly getting really lightheaded, and that is not me. So for some of you, again, it's that it washes in spin. It's the sense of overwhelm. You might be getting lightheadedness or migraines. Please check that your blood sugar's okay. Please take time off if you need time off, right? If, as with all my readings, if your health is suffering, see your doctor, see your GP, attend to it first, and then take any advice I'm giving, okay? Because I feel like this is stressing you out to the point where, excuse me, hiccups again, confirmation, to the point where your health could be affected. Not a threat, not hanging over you, I don't do that. But it's just saying, you know, you've been a little tense. There are lots of things that you can get that are mild and stress related. You don't want to get those things. So chill it out a bit. Reel than or bin, pal, as another friend would say. I have very many colourful friends, my dudes. But on that, this is almost like this reading is saying, we are your friends. Spirit is your friend. God is your friend if you feel more comfortable with that. Or you are your own friend if indeed you are kind of atheistic and watching this as a kind of thought experiment, or because you relate to it and you're not sure why. It's like something out there has your back, and it's good to speak to people in really discerning, discriminating language. Notice this needle that we referenced earlier coming back into the conversation to pick at the exact right words to say. But also, if you feel you can't discuss it, if it's, you know, winnowed down to this tiny thing and then there's nothing barely left, or if you just feel very self-conscious about the whole thing, or it's like a secret thing that you were going to do as a surprise, right? Because the card said that. Just know that the friends you can call upon are the sources of this tarot reading, right? And I don't mean me, because I just relay. I'm a telegram at best, right? But do make sure that this doesn't go from your 4th into your kind of 6th, your health, right? Or indeed into your identity. If you were the person who was about to make this offer, this is perilously close to the 1st house cusp, right? It's so for my non-astrologers, we're talking like a circle that I'm looking in as to where things are that mean different things. And we're talking your identity is over here, and the situation is impactful upon that identity. So if, for example, you are unable to make an offer that you thought you would like to make, and then you're realizing too late that actually somebody else had a hand in this shit, that's okay. You can forgive yourself as well as this person, because the situation's still going to go where you wanted it to go. And maybe down the road you can offer the same thing, or you can go for the same job again, or whatever it is. But don't conflate inability to act because of some fears with I'm a fearful person, or I'm terrible at this, or I'm a bad communicator, or I will never get this job, or whatever, right? It's not your identity, it's the circumstance that needed to come through today. It's not a big deal, right? It's already taken care of. I'm here to reassure you that you are being watched over, and you needed to know that it was being tampered with more than you needed to fear for the outcome. Because honestly, that fear is like, it might have held you back, it might not. It might hold this person back, it might not. But it's kind of immaterial, it's kind of a moot point. the thing is, I just want to say the universe has your back. I've never read that book, and I honestly don't vibe with the person who released it, but maybe that's a confirmation for you. But that is what I want to say, is that what I work with has you. This is a trust fall. Let go. Calm down. I'm sorry I had to keep reiterating that, but I feel like some of you need it that many times. Also, you see how these horns are up here, right? And then down here, we almost have horns at the other end. I feel that to the extent that this offer-giving person has their own ideas that can maybe be infiltrated or interrupted, the other party has their own mind too, has their own gestures and actions and things too. So if the other party, the non-gifting party, is you, this is a thing to say, you know, they weren't the only person that can act in this situation. Perhaps you could just go and directly ask if you were given the promotion. Perhaps you could ask the person out. Perhaps you could mend fences yourself. Perhaps you could have the conversation that needed to happen. And if you were the person who was going to give the offer and it's being infiltrated and you're like, oh, I wish I'd known not to be so fearful because it's so obvious now that I'm hearing it, then perhaps this is saying, you're not the only person in this conversation and life finds a way. In the words of Jeff Goldblum, life finds a way. And there's something going on here that's going to kind of come in and be like, oh, it's all right anyway. It's fine. Honestly, it's fine. It's the vibe of right at the end of the end credits of Ferris Bueller, when he comes out of the bathroom with a towel around his head, looking fly as fuck, with no right, and he just goes, it's over. Go home. And all the people who stayed in the cinema or watching the whatever to watch the credits are like, oh, okay. I can resume my life now. This is your reading to say you can resume your life now, right? What else? Why am I doing it with... There's something else you came to ask about and it's a no. Oh, and I've just shed a carnelian. The crystals are out of the bra. Whoop, whoop. Sorry, guys. Sometimes I lean over and it tumbles everywhere, and preferably it's not like a supermarket clattering, but it does happen occasionally depending on what I'm wearing. But carnelian may be a thing. Also, that is usually it's my Cancerian crystal, so that might be relevant somewhere in here. In somebody's chart, it's bound to be somewhere, right? But also, it is a very sexy energy kind of crystal for replenishing that. So if your confidence has been impacted by this, that carnelian perhaps fell out of my bra to say, don't let it get to you, and use that emerald channel that we spoke about a bit ago to recharge your solar plexus. I know emerald is technically heart chakra if you work with the chakra system, but in this case, you can use it for sacral and solar plexus because it's like regaining either general confidence or sexual confidence. So kind of bottom of sternum, green coming in, if you want to just feel like, oh, I'm all right, actually, I'm fine. And then sort of where a womb would be on a female, or kind of just below your navel by maybe a hand's width, green coming in, etc. If you want to kind of recharge, if there's something about this infiltration that has affected your sexual energy, because that also could be that inverse wands that we got as an outcome of like, like I understand the situation now, but also I don't feel frisky anymore. Creative energy in a literal sense as well as in that sort of artistic sense, right? So and we were hearing impotence being shouted, and I think that is referring to the interloper. But if you've had any issue with that, right, whether getting or sustaining or just not feeling up for it, use the emerald energy, the Venusian energy, to replenish yourself in that sense, okay? It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's just coming through for some of you. Anything else? Can we have something about Colours, shapes, anything else that we're... This wants to be a 3D house. Just a moment. Unrelated to what we just spoke about, but sort of related, you're carrying so many burdens at the moment, you could make a house out of the sticks you're carrying. You know the 10 of Wands imagery in the Smith Way, where he's carrying the 10 wands, I guess, the 10 staffs over his head, and he can barely see where he's going, and it's like weighing him down. It's almost like you're carrying so many sticks, you could build a hut overnight and live quite happily there with your fear without moving anywhere else, just listening to the sound of the ocean waves, with all of your instabilities around you, with all of your neuroses happily cladding against the weather, right? And I'm not throwing shade, because I am in that vibe a lot of the time myself, but it's like, it's almost like, don't build a house out of your ruminations at this time, right? You're not just carrying 10 wands, you're carrying all the wands there are, and I can't do quick enough maths to figure out how many wands there are in total in the tarot deck. But yeah, never mind. Depends on the deck as well, right? But it's like, thou hast too many burdens, my brother in Christ, or my sister in Christ. Lay some of them down for a hot minute. Again, it's like, chill out, right? Not even in relation to this former situation, but just like, if there are projects you can drop, now's the time. Maybe after this reading, just take a moment. Or indeed, like Ferris Bueller, take a hot shower, wrap a hot towel around your head. Tell other people in your life that are in the hallway that they shouldn't be in the hallway and to go away. I'm not recommending aggression, but healthy boundaries are always nice, right? There needs to be a stepping back. And I think that when you do step back, you're going to hear more clearly, with these ocean waves in this analogy, emotionally what's coming in for you as a result of maybe practical alterations that we've spoken of. Do I want anything else? Yes, right. I'm waiting. Show me the money. Show me the money. That may be what you have been chanting in relation to the situation described. Or not, I don't know. Okay, so we're looking at this shape. I get you. Compasses, why? Ah, okay. I'm seeing a pair of compasses, and then I'm seeing them not making a precise shape, but instead making scribbles. You are trying to apply to the universe, with your engineer brain that we referenced earlier, a kind of precision, which is honourable in its application, and notable and, you know, wonderfully efficient in some situations, but cannot be applied to all things. What I'm getting is that your usual technical approach is kind of going to lead to just random scribbles in some situations, and you have to just let them be that way. You have to let them go. It's almost like a take your hands off the wheel situation, right? And obviously I'm not advocating for that in real life. Come on, right? But it's that sort of thing of just taking a moment where you're like, and I'm coasting. And sometimes that's all right, because you are so technical and because you are so precise and efficient and meticulous in the way that you go about many things. It's important to learn where to discern, okay, but for this I'm taking my hands off the wheel, or indeed for this I cannot control the outcome. So I need to just go, I'm doing what I can do, and then I'm seeing how it plays out. I'm relaxing for a few. Particularly if this has been a reading about an emotional situation, or decisions for another person that are perhaps emotionally influenced. And remember that fear is an emotion, so material instability also falls under that, or the threat of, right? You can't control how people respond to these things, and whether they go into lizard brain, and whether they do a quick panic, and whether they listen to people who are perhaps infiltrating without the best of intention. You can't ensure that nobody is swayed around you, but you can account for your own actions. And again, with the mirroring of the horns, you can take your own ideas places and spiral them out into some kind of production in your own world. But what you can't do is grab hold of the horns of another person without them shouting at you and saying, hey, why are you trying to steer me? Which is why this spider had to crawl in, right? That's the need for subterfuge. Because if we directly tried to influence people by going, you should do this, then we'd be controlling assholes. Whereas if we just crawl into their mind in a very subtle fashion, we're not controlling assholes. We're maybe covertly controlling, but we're probably only telling them this for their own good, or we're probably only meaning the best for them, etc., etc., which is how people like that get away with it, right? If you haven't, reading the 48 laws of power, and indeed the 50th law in particular, with our Lord and Saviour 50 Cent, as well as the actually incomparable Robert Greene, these may be useful tools to you, and I've mentioned them before on the channel when it relates to dealing with people who will try to influence others in a less than open fashion, which I think, you know, we're safe to say we're dealing with that right now, right? And don't believe the reputations of those books that it's all about like climbing the ranks of evil and all this sort of shit. It's a manual on how to deal with difficult people in a lot of places and how they work and how they operate covertly. Just a recommendation for some. Yeah, my feeling is that if you let go and you kind of appreciate that like too many cooks would spoil the broth on this, or that like trying to be really precise with your particular instruments, read, you know, your way of approaching things generally with your sort of language and your sort of feelings and thoughts and gestures, it might be like you would still lose control in this. And when you do retreat and when you do realise that and when you do kick back a bit and trust that you're protected, I think actually this will go very well. And maybe even with these attempted compasses here, you will draw a very neat circle or a wonderful geometric pattern or something. But it's like you couldn't do that by overhandling the tools. Some of you, and I know one person in particular who is an artist who may be watching, where this is translating as like, oh, they are my literal instruments of my trade. There's something here about like, put the work down, take the hands off for a sec, like take a break. Or if you've been wanting to add to the tools that you use for your particular arts or sciences or architecture or whatever it is, take a step back before you make that decision. Take like an hour or so off to just think about something completely different, down tools, come back to it refreshed, and then something new will kind of go, oh, actually, yeah, I was going to make that decision, but this would work better, right? Step away from the canvas is what I want to say in a broader sense as well, yeah? Anything else? You may be in a time where your hair is literally growing faster, because I'm seeing this like chonking out at the bottom. And actually, since I've cut all this hair off, it's only been a couple of days, but my hair's grown at an almost alarming rate. I feel like a tree. So there's something there about that if you're wanting to grow your hair, or if you're growing hair back after something like chemo, or, you know, you're just kind of, for some of you, you are losing your hair and it's more stress related than it is to do with aging or something health related in a different way. And actually addressing this like insidious messaging will help you to combat that condition if it is indeed stress related, right? Or it will, I'm not going to say it'll cease completely, because I don't like giving kind of diagnostics or prognoses or anything through these kinds of readings. But what I want to say is that you might not have as much trouble with that as you are doing once you step back from the influences that have been ever present in your home environment. Okay? Okay. I think we're done. Is there anything else I haven't mentioned? They want me to do one oracular kind of thing with this image here. Sorry, 2 seconds. So going back to the Page of Pentacles in reverse, which is the gift that was rebuked. I sort of don't like the rebuke now, because I only ever see it now in comments in tarot readings where either somebody very clearly toxic is like, I rebuke all third parties in the name of blah, 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 blah. And it's like, okay, but if you're doing the work, you don't need to do the rebuking, you need to forgive. Or I see it in toxic comment sections where it's like, I rebuke thee in the name of the Most High, because like somebody's using tarot and Christians misinterpret that as being, or sorry, I should say evangelists misinterpret that as being like demonic or some nonsense. Anyway, that's my feelings on the word rebuke. Let's get back to your reading. Maybe that was just a confirmation for someone, or if someone was about to type that they rebuke something in my comments, it's a naughty, naughty. We're going to turn this page the right way up and read it again, right? Because what we got before was this kind of instrument of precision. Looks like an engraving needle to me. That may be partly because I know a glass engraver, or partly because I watched Saw 10 the other night. Who's to say? But we're going to flippity-dippity and then read it like this as your final thing. What if they are cats? What are they? Sorry, 2 moments. Okay. So what I'm seeing, you may also have been working with Bast, or you may feel called to, or Bastet. What I'm seeing here is 2 cats facing each other, both laid out in a slightly stretched cat fashion, which is usually a signature for solar energy or lying in the sun, right? These guys, they've put their burdens down, they're just chilling out, they're getting the last shaft of sunlight of the day to warm their bellies before they no doubt pester their companions for a bit of tuna or whatever. But you'll see they're doing it together and they're kind of reciprocally stretching out. There is a mirroring of relaxation here. And then you'll see down here, it forms a kind of strangled heart. So what I'm getting is 2 playful beings, or 2 beings that represent indulgence and receptivity and perhaps surrendering to the spirit of play and sleepiness and relaxation and chill, who are mirroring each other in that process and having a bond formed. I think that if you can chill out about this, the other person involved in it will also feel your chill at a distance, and things will calm down a lot faster. And there may even be like a love vibration if that's appropriate, but if not, I think it's just going to be now I'm hearing think but this and all is mended, right? So it's that yeah, it's a woosah. It's you are, by being calm, you are manifesting calm, you are attracting calm, and you are sending calm to whoever it is that's on your mind, be it professionally, personally, whatever. Also with the think but this and all is mended, it's that you have but slumbered here is the next line, I think. So it's kind of like, can you see all of this, if you are spiritually inclined, as a bit of a simulation? Can you see it as a situation that is not really a problem in the true sense, but kind of just an indicator as to the character of other players involved, or of the software strength of one particular person against viruses, and the resilience of another person, and how they're actually, it's like the person that Odin is protecting has got an antiviral installed, and then the other person is a little bit less protected, a little bit more childlike and unsure, and therefore they're easily infiltrated by the person that we spoke about, right? So it's just like, can you, if you're the Odin party, can you do something for their antiviral software? Can you update them and be like, hey, when this thing happens, it's important to have this mechanism in the system? Or vice versa, if you feel like you've been imposed upon by something from somewhere else, or a process has been unjustly interrupted, then this is saying the other person that you were dealing with, or perhaps going to offer to, has a stronger system of protection in place, and you can learn from that and maybe ask them directly, like, hey, how do you avoid things like this when they happen? Or how do you prevent being unsure when you're doing something that's scary, or whatever it is, right? That was your last message. I'm sorry this probably went on a bit, but I do hope you enjoyed that. Let me know what you thought of reading with hair and any other systems of divination you would like to see, or any other things you would generally like to see on the channel. Please do like, subscribe, ding the dong, thank you kindly. I'm a small channel with a big mission, and I would very much appreciate being shared so that my numbers can skyrocket and I can read for more people in a more personal way. And if you would like to book with me for a one-on-one kind of truly tailored reading, the link is in the description, or indeed you can donate if you just want to throw me a cup of coffee without throwing a cup of coffee in my face directly. Cheers. That's me out.